Hello Swifties, welcome back to my channel. You've never seen this before, have you? This corner of my room, this very blank corner where I've had to tear everything off the wall so that I could accomplish my harebrained scheme to bring you a brilliant video. So today what we're going to be doing is ranking Taylor Swift's albums, but with a twist. We are going to be doing it in the Dance Moms pyramid style. Now, I wasn't a huge Dance Moms fan, but I always tuned in for the pyramid because I thought there was just something so perverse about the way that it shamed and humiliated these poor little girls who just wanted to dance their hearts out. So today, the little girls who are dancing their hearts out are Taylor Swift's studio albums, and I am Abby Lee Miller. I will decide who is on the top of the pyramid and is the legendary slay queen of all of the Taylor Swift album. I have left the debut off the ranking, but I am representing her in spirit on my shirt. Now, the reason why I have left her off the ranking was because I feel like the debut is hard to include in a rank, you know? Like, she was the blueprint. She charted the way, had a path and a map through uncharted territory, and I feel as though when I see people ranking Taylor's albums, debut always comes last because it's hard to rank. I really haven't met very many people who have debut above like 7th or 6th place if there's another album they really hate. And I certainly haven't seen anyone who stands the debut, and if you do, I think that you're lying. So don't comment and tell me that you stand the debut, because I don't think that those people exist. Everybody loves it, of course, but what I'm saying is, she didn't really get a fair shot. All these other girls had a precedent to follow. They had an example before them that they had to either heed or break. So this is my subjective ranking of Taylor Swift's albums. This is highly requested. I hope that you enjoy. Please like, subscribe, leave me a comment, let me know what videos you want to see. I'm in a bit of a creative rut at the moment, which is why I haven't been posting, but I had this brainwave for this idiotic but amazing idea, and so here I am today, trying to execute it. And you can see the rest of my room right now. It's like very, very much a mess. I would like to start at the very bottom, in last place. This is the loser. This is the person who fell over during the dance competition and nearly fucked up the whole number for everybody. And who is it? I think you guys can guess. You know who it is. Lover. Lover is in the bottom spot because Lover didn't do what she needed to do to advance the narrative of Taylor Swift's career. I mean, I think I've discussed this at length at this point. I did a whole video on what's wrong with Lover and how I would fix it. But in terms of ranking, like, Lover really has to stay at the very bottom for me because it didn't achieve what I think a great Taylor Swift album usually achieves, which is a beautiful, kind of messy kaleidoscope of a certain feeling, theme, or emotion. For many reasons, I found Lover to be contrived and inauthentic. So, Lover is in the absolute bottom spot. Let the team down, almost messed up the group number, and it's hard to forgive her for that. But, you know, coming in right behind her, not too far behind her, is what I would say is Lover's sister album. Now, many people are going to be scared of what I'm about to say. I almost got canceled on Twitter this week. Well, I didn't almost get, I was getting canceled by Reputation stans, simply because I said it wasn't her best album. I didn't even criticize it. I just said it wasn't the best and it is kind of dated. So up next is Reputation. Now, I won't crumple up Reputation. I like Reputation. In fact, I love Reputation. I would say the only Taylor Swift album that I don't love is Lover. Reputation is a great album. It really is. It does pale in comparison to her other works that I think are more timeless. So something like 1989 managed to be a little bit trend-chasing and modern, but it also will stand the test of time. And if a song from 1989 comes on right now, it's kind of ubiquitous. It doesn't remind me of a specific time period. It doesn't have any like very dating sounds. Some songs on Red can sound a little dated. Even We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together in this day and age, though obviously it's the best song of all time, it has, the production value is very 2012. With Reputation, I feel as though the entire album suffers from this. It will not age well because, first of all, she was playing a character and it was a concept, so we love that. The writing on the album is good. The songs themselves are actually quite good. They're melodically sound. It's more of a cadence, talk, rhythm singing album, and the real hurdle where it falls, I guess, is the production. There are just some production elements that feel very not in keeping with 2022, as in like what we like to listen to or what the sounds have moved on to since. Reputation also like had a low impact, I would say. It was a very important thing for her to do to reorient herself as a public persona. But do I think that Taylor actually wanted to do what she had to do with Reputation? No, I think there was no other choice. She, her reputation had never been worse, and she needed to get herself out of a hole. And she tried to rap, sing, talk her way out of it, and it kind of worked, I guess. We did get Look What You Made Me Do, which is one of my favorite Taylor moments of all time, pure genius. Everything after that and everything surrounding the Reputation album, like the lead up, was executed kind of messily, a little bit poor, a little bit of a letdown. Yes, I did go to a secret session, so I feel like I'm really coming to you from a place of real honesty with this. So I think that Reputation and Lover are sister albums. Reputation is the better album, but they both have suffered the same fate, which is that I think Taylor was trying to do something that she's not very good at, which is chasing relevancy instead of creating relevancy, which is what you will see at the tippy top of this pyramid. Up next, and this may shock people, but remember, it is my subjective ranking, and I think I just had to do this because I don't revisit this record as much as I did once before, and that's because I revisited it for, 7-8 years on end. I played it every single day of my life, and it is Fearless. Fearless is an amazing album. It's a great album. Ranking these albums at all has been very difficult for me to do because, again, like I said, there's really only one album that I dislike or I have a specific, flavor of contempt for. Fearless is a great album. It is a little one-dimensional in that it's a lot about like fairy tales and horses and princesses and damsels in distress, and there's a lot of binary rights and wrongs. You can look at my Fearless reaction video to Taylor's version to see like what I was going through when I was re-listening to the songs. I connect very deeply to a lot of them, but they do ring to me like songs from underwater or from another era. Like it feels so far from who I am as a person now, the Fearless songs, and it was legacy cementing, don't get me wrong. You Belong With Me, Love Story, Fearless, like these are great hallmarks of the Taylor Swift discography, but when I stack them up compared to the other works, do I think that Fearless was her most important work? No, I think maybe impactfully it might have been, but symbolically, metaphorically, and artistically, which are the things that I personally really care about when I'm ranking Taylor's albums, I just don't think that Fearless quite reaches that level anymore for me. But great respect to her. I have nothing but love for people who take my hand and drag me headfirst Fearless. Rounding out the very last part of this pyramid is Folklore. Now, I think that Folklore is great as an album. It works so wonderfully as an entire body of work. It was obviously a little groundbreaking for her. It was a reorientation. It was a shift in her career. My issue that I'm having with not putting it up higher, whereas there was a time when I used to have Folklore as my number 2 most favorite Taylor album, I would say my issue is that it's hard to piece this album apart. Like, the highlights of the album are good by themselves, but they are better as a whole when you view it together. So when you're trying to just have a casual listen to Folklore and you just want to dip in and out, I find that kind of hard to do. Like, I need to be in the mood and in the right mindset to listen to Folklore. And the greatest great album should have a little bit of everything on it. Something that makes you want to cry, something that makes you want to dance, something that makes you want to scream. Folklore only has like 2 of those things. So I had to just put it down there because I feel like solid whole record, not a lot of standout excellence, career highs individually. The concept, the album, the execution, wonderful, magical, never been done before, won't be done since. But there's another album which used a similar marketing strategy that I think nailed it just a little bit more. Bringing me to the second row. So we're gonna go from left to right, and then the top. So we're gonna go from left to right in terms of worst to better. So coming in hot at position number 4, so kind of like smack bang in the middle of my ranking, and sneaking into that upper echelon of albums, we have Evermore. Like I mentioned, Evermore is similar to Folklore in that it follows the same kind of guidebook on how to make and release and surprise people with an album. But what I think it does much more successfully than Folklore is it takes risks. There are adventurous moments on this record that, I think she hasn't branched out into since Red, which obviously is her most chaotic and experimental record ever. But I think that Evermore has these like very weird kind of experiments. So we have songs like Closure, Long Story Short, I guess, is a little bit of a return to form. We have Evermore, which kind of falls apart and comes back together. Cowboy Like Me, her first real true country song that she's done since she pivoted away from that genre. I think that Evermore was way more daring, and once she had executed the perfect version of this record, which was Folklore, it was cohesive, every single song like fit very nicely together, it all tied up these tiny little narratives with a bow. Evermore, she got to let her freak flag fly. It has like less good songs collectively, but the good songs are great songs that you can listen to plucked out of obscurity with no context whatsoever. If I want to cry, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to scream tolerate it. I want to scream, and I want to get rageful and angry. I mean, I could go for so many things. What would I go for? 'Tis the Damn Season, perhaps. That's like a sad rage. And if I wanted to dance, I could play Gold Rush. So you see, there's dimension, there's charisma, there's narrative, there's real initiative taken to do something new that we hadn't seen before, while also sticking with a vibe, a theme, and a trend that was carried over from the previous record. Something very rare for her. She usually doesn't, repeat the same kind of thing twice. But Reputation and Lover are very similar records in that sense, in their concept-driven focus. Now we're getting into the good shit. So number 3, in third place, we have 1989. What can be said about 1989? Like, on an objective ranking, 1989 truly would be the top spot. And why? Because it's undeniable. It is a feat of human engineering. Like, I just don't understand how everything fell so perfectly into place for this record. It met Taylor at a moment in her life where she was seeking a change and gaining autonomy and confidence, and took her over the edge into being one of the most famous people in the world. I mean, she was pretty successful before 1989, but this was stratospheric. And if you weren't around for the era, it's hard to explain just how ever present she was in the world around you. She was on every TV show, she was on every mug, she was on every billboard, she was giving interviews, and everybody wanted to be her friend, and then everyone was talking shit about her. Like, this is a very pivotal turning point for her in her career, where I think, after this album, she really got to make a lot of decisions about who she is and how she wants to live her life. But before we got there, we got this incredible, cohesive, tight body of music. I think that was directly influenced by the kind of chaos and the messiness that we'd seen on Red. She wanted to neuter it down a little bit, make it very focused, and prove that she could execute a theme, honey, a concept, baby. She was reorienting herself as a woman with agency who was not on her bed, strumming her guitar, crying her little eyes out. She was living in a big old city and writing songs about having sex with her ex-boyfriends, which, you know what? That's the tea. That's what I want to hear from her. So 1989, I mean, yeah, so many career highlights on that record. Style, Blank Space, Shake It Off, All You Had to Do Was Stay, Wildest Dreams. There are so many great moments on this album, and I would say this is the closest thing to being a bulletproof record, where the track list is pretty much bulletproof. You can't fault it. The only weak spot or lagging spot I would say is kind of maybe towards the end of the standard edition, but there are plenty of enough bangers on the front half to make up for anything that lacks on the second half. So props to Taylor, love that album, one of her best, very well thought out. And she also had to fight to get that record released because Scott Borchetta, dumbass, piece of shit, garbage man, did not want to let her go down the pop route at all. He wanted her to slap some country songs on the record. And can you imagine how that would have sullied and ruined 1989 and totally destroyed the vibe if she had just thrown 2 country songs on there? She was right. She said, Scott, that would be a careless thing to do, and it would be disrespectful to me and the work that I've made. And you know what? That's the truth. Up next at number 2, I go back and forth with this album all the time. I'm on a wave with it at the moment. I feel like if you're a Swiftie and you're watching this, when you're trying to rank the albums, you live with these songs. They become part of your life. They're woven into a fabric that you take with you everywhere you go. So over time, things do change, and you could even get me tomorrow and my ranking might be different, but today this is what I'm going with. Number 2, we have Speak Now. So when we're talking about what I mentioned earlier, artistry, metaphor, creativity, this truly was something else. This was a genuine slap in the face to all of the misogynistic critics and critical voices who suggested that Taylor could not write her own music or that she relied overly on helping hands to construct her songs. Completely and totally false, as we can see. My favorite thing about Speak Now is that not only are all of these songs written solely by her, apart from some of the bonus tracks, they have very complex and intricate musical arrangements. And I believe that Nathan Chapman did a really good job on this record. I mean, I don't know what he's up to these days, but he did an excellent job distilling her vision, her production vision. It was really cool seeing videos of her in the studio, kind of working on and contributing to these arrangements. There's a lot of live instruments on this album. I would say it's probably the last record of hers that we had that was super live instrument focused. And it builds off of what Fearless gave, but it adds another layer, and that layer is the absolute slap in the face knowledge that she can do all of this by herself, and she doesn't need your fucking help, she doesn't need your money, she doesn't need you, she doesn't need to have 8 writers on a song to make a hit, she literally just needs herself and her guitar. I also respect about this album that she didn't really try and get any radio hits. I mean, the album did perfectly well commercially, but you know, there are no enduring or lasting singles that I would say stay in people's brain. But I do notice that when you talk to people about Taylor and you mention songs from Speak Now, people have these wild and emotional attachments to these songs. If they haven't kept up with Taylor in a while, this is kind of the last memory they have of her, and it's a very fond one. So that's always a good thing. But she could have run the risk with this album of it flopping. You know, she had 3 or 4 pretty big hits. She was coming off Today Was a Fairy Tale, which was also like a massive hit for her at the time. She was on the up and up, and it would have made sense to play it safe and just kind of repeat the Fearless playbook. Go back to Liz Rose and say, I need 5 more of these cheerleaders on the bleachers songs, please. But what did she do? No, she set out to prove a point. And this is what I love about Taylor's albums, is that I feel as though from the very start, she has always looked at this as a career, as an end game. It's never just, what does this one album mean? What is this one album gonna do for me right now? Except for Lover. That's the only album that kind of falls victim to what I'm about to say. She looks at her career as an entire long spanning thing. And every single album in that journey serves to further her development as an artist or the way that she wants to be seen by her audience and the public. So Speak Now was an excellent, brave move to solidify her chops and really gain some respect for her in the music industry. And finally, at the very tippy top of the pyramid, my favorite girl, you all know, it's Red. Come on. Red is the best. To me, okay? To me, Red is the best Taylor Swift album of all time. It has everything that I want on it. I literally can't talk about Red anymore just because I've like done it ad nauseum. I'm sure you're all sick of it. If you would like to hear me talk about Red in detail, go listen to The Evolution of a Snake, 2012, part 1, both of them, I guess. And also go watch a couple of my videos. I did a huge Red reaction. I've done a couple of like Red rankings, talking about the Volt songs. Go listen to how I feel about Red, but you know, this was a legacy cementing record and is like constantly cited by critics as her finest work. And I think it was because she was very brave, she was daring, and she was incredibly and profoundly heartbroken. And I love that quote of hers where she says, the world is a different place for someone who's heartbroken. It moves differently, it seems different, you interact with it differently, and that's what I think Red captures so magically. It's, you know, happy, free, confused, and lonely in the best way. You got it? Miserable and magical. Well, Swifties, that's it. This is my ranking of Taylor Swift's albums, leaving out the debut, who has a special place in all of our hearts. Shout out to the debut. If you have any video ideas, leave a comment and let me know. If you are wondering where I am between videos, go follow me on Instagram. I'm pretty active on there. I post about Taylor sometimes. You can go talk to me. You can message me and harass me about videos if you'd like. If I haven't posted it in a while, just go and find me there. But I hope to see you soon, and I hope that you have a wonderful week. Goodbye, Swifties.